My K40 laser is laying in this corner of my workshop, gathering dust for too long now. I really need to start using it more and hopefully make it even pay for itself. After the initial enthusiasm, I soon realised that there were a couple of things that needed to be modified. I'd already done things like adding air assist, which is a must on these things. The real issue with it is that it has very little control over the power of the laser, just a variable control here to vary the current onto the laser tube, which doesn't really give you any fine degree of control, which was what I was looking for. That fine degree of control can only really be realized by using software such as Lightburn. That seems to be the de facto software these days, and for some of the projects that I want to do, it's essential. Let me show you quickly under this side of the machine the controller board that's supplied. Here inside the machine then we can see the little control board being the M2 Nano. This is a very basic board. It can't do very much itself in the way of processing, and the board really needs to be able to process the G-code on the fly, which is what comes from Lightburn. You can see the power on this connector here. The next connector in is the Y-axis motor. The X-axis motor is controlled via the ribbon cable there, and just coming in through the side, the USB control. What we need to do then is to replace that board with something more intelligent. I'll show you now what I've purchased. As it's my intention to be using the Lightburn software, it makes sense to see what controllers they support and recommend. G-code controllers, which are the ones that I'm going to be focusing on as examples of those there. In my case, I was considering this board, but it's not available in the EU at the moment, and there doesn't seem to be any indication of when it may be available. Another G-code controller is this one from Cohesion 3D, but at this sort of price level, I don't think so. That's not for me. And indeed, the DSP controllers, if we look at my local Amazon, €420, I don't think so. The other thing to consider is that the license for Lightburn for the G-code is half the price of that for the DSP equivalent. If I went for the DSP, that would come out at over €500, which is certainly a lot more than double what I paid for the K40 in the first place. On doing some more research on the internet, I came across this board, which runs at around €100. That's just about in my price range, and being G-code, I can use the basic or just the G-code license for Lightburn. That works for me. Also, this guy has a very good website going through the reasons that he has developed this board specifically for the K40, as we can see here. This then is my choice of board. Let me just show it to you now for real. Here then the board in the flesh. Now do not be alarmed and put off by all of these connections. Not all of them are in use. In fact, very few of them are in use. The cable connects here, so that's compatible with the K40 ribbon cable. Aside from that, in the diagram that you can see now, all that we need to connect is to this connector here, the ground enable and the PWM control of the laser, and down here ground and 24 volts. And that is really that. The stepper motor for the Y-axis connects to the driver board here. This is the driver board for the X-axis, and you also have one for the Z-axis should you need it. One of the things that attracted me to the board, the developer has put a deal of effort into it to be able to provide you with extra inputs and outputs. If we look now on the screen at the features and benefits of this particular board, compatible with GRBL for the ESP32 obviously, compatible with Lightburn, laser power managed by the software, that's the PWM that we saw, 3-axis control with end stops or limit switches, 100% compatible with wiring for K40, easy installation, integrated noise filters for the end stops and the inputs, and as I mentioned, 2 dry contact relays, these guys here, for the air assist should you use it, which I certainly will be, and a function of your choice, compatible with both types of laser activation, active on 0 or 5 volts. Up here you can see there is an SD card slot as well. All in all then, I think it's going to be quite easy to install. That will be the next task. The installation is made easier by this 3D printed mounting plate. You can see that it fits on there, and these slots here should line up once we've removed the original M2 Nano board. Let's go ahead and do the installation. Here then we have the physical installation in the machine. It's very straightforward. Our axes are connected here and here. Make sure you get this connector the right way round, and that one, that's easier. The only connections to the board then are over here. We have the enable, ground and the pulse width modulation signal to the laser controller. Up here we have 24 volts and that's it. These wires here have all been disconnected. That's just the test fire switch and the potentiometer, the variable resistor that used to control the tube. Don't touch anything over here on the high voltage side, and on the 24 volts you'll need to keep probably the connection which is here for the exhaust fan. These 2 pink cables, as before, are the enable function for the laser itself. With that all out of the way then, the next thing to do will be to connect up our USB cable to the PC, fire up Lightburn and see what happens. The description of how to start up the Shield is well covered in the documentation, which I will provide a link to. I suggest that you go through this very carefully, step by step, and there's not very much that can go wrong. I will just point out to you a couple of things, especially this line here, that the DTR control is activated. If we go over to Lightburn and have a look in the setup device settings, here we can see over here enable DTR signal. You need to make sure that that is checked, and you'll probably need to restart Lightburn for that to take effect. That was the only thing that I really found that was a little bit of a challenge. I'm going to start the machine up now, so things are going to get pretty noisy. I hope you'll be able to hear me over it. First, just switching the machine on itself. Now, I'm not sure if it's because I have more than one laser configured, but to get the thing working, I have to click on devices and then just OK, and I've made the K40 the default. As you can see there, it's recognized it and it homes it OK. I never start out with simple things, so I'm going to try this rather complex picture here, which is called a hamsa. Many people associate it solely with Islam, and it actually predates Islam and was introduced into Spain through Cartagena, which means New Carthage, by the Carthaginians. Anyway, I digress. Let's just check the framing. So that's inside our material there. Things will get even noisier now as I need to put my water pump and air assist on, and I need to shut the lid so that the extractor works properly. As you can see, I've got a cut outline which runs at 400 millimeters per minute at 30%, and the engraving at 6000 15%. Safety squints on then. And nothing is happening because I didn't arm it. I will stop that. Home it again. This time activate the laser. It's always a good idea. We'll come back when that's finished. With the job finished then, we can quiet things down and inspect our work. It has cut all the way through very cleanly, as you can see there. I'll get this cleaned up and then we'll have a little final review. Taking a closer look at the piece, I'm very pleased with the way that it's turned out. Very fine level of detail, I think, and hope that you'll agree. If we take an even closer look under the microscope, you can see the very fine engraving. Perhaps just gauge the depth of it there by the point on my scalpel, and even each of those little dots, quite fine detail there. I'm very happy with the result here. This certainly wouldn't have been possible with the old controller and software. Looking at the detail in the eye here, each of these little parts is raised and recessed where it's been engraved away. That will enable us to do many more fine projects, like the idea of putting multiple colours on a tile and taking one layer off at a time. We've now got that fine degree of control. That's all then for this video, a very worthwhile upgrade, and remember there's links to the parts down in the video description. Many thanks for watching.